Combat in RuneScape 3 can be like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. Despite Jagex's valiant efforts to make combat more user-friendly,
allegedly,
most of us are still scratching our heads over the basics. What's the real difference between each combat style? How does the adrenaline system actually work? And should you go with full manual, revolution, or legacy combat? Fantastic questions, me! Grab some coffee and a notepad, and welcome to Combat Dummy. Since the dawn of RuneScape, there have been 3 combat styles: magic, ranged, and melee. These were the days where the combat triangle dictated your combat choices. Think of it like rock, paper, scissors, only with more pointy objects and fireballs. Magic beats melee, melee beats ranged, and ranged beats magic. Simple, right? But then, because things couldn't stay simple, along came Necromancy. Toss in a generous serving of power creep, and now the combat triangle has morphed into more of a combat blob. Nowadays, you can pretty much choose whatever style tickles your fancy without sweating over what's strongest. Chances are you'll end up using each combat style at some point. So let's break them down to help you understand the differences and decide which one suits your playstyle best. Let's kick things off with magic. Staves and wands are the primary weapons for this style, offering a variety of spells and abilities. You can hit your target up to 8 tiles away using weapons ranging from tier 1 to tier 95. Additionally, there are 3 spellbooks to choose from: Standard, Ancient Magics, and Lunar Spells. We'll dive deeper into spellbooks and abilities in a separate video, but for now, these are the core mechanics of the magic combat style. Next up is ranged. Whether you prefer bows and arrows or crossbows and bolts, this style offers versatile options. The attack range varies between 7 to 9 tiles depending on the weapon you choose, and trust me, the difference in damage potential can be significant based on what you use, but we'll save that detailed breakdown for another video. Now, let's talk about melee. It's as straightforward as getting up close and giving your target a good bonk. Most melee weapons require you to stand next to your target to deal damage, though halberd-style weapons allow you to strike from an additional tile away. While melee might seem simple on the surface, it probably has the highest difficulty to bring out its full potential. Last, let's delve into Necromancy, the new kid on the block. Your weapons and armor evolve as you progress through the skill, culminating in a full set of tier 95 gear dropped by the final boss of the Necromancy storyline. Despite having a shorter attack range of 6 tiles, Necromancy compensates with a plethora of abilities, conjures, and incantations. Now that we've covered what each combat style can do, it's time to actually use them. In RuneScape combat, everything revolves around 3 key elements: abilities, ticks, and adrenaline. In RuneScape 3, combat revolves around the use of abilities, much like in most modern MMOs. There are 4 primary types of abilities: basic, threshold, ultimate, and special. I'll explain how abilities interact with ticks and adrenaline later in this chapter. However, the key takeaway is this: each combat style has its own unique set of abilities, and each ability has its own cooldown timer before it can be used again. Ticks refer to a timing system used by Jagex. Actions can be taken every 0.6 seconds, which equals 1 game tick. In combat, ticks dictate how frequently you can use abilities. Generally, you can activate an ability every 3 game ticks, known as the global cooldown. If you watch your ability bar, it flashes to indicate the end of this cooldown, signaling that another ability can be used. However, the global cooldown doesn't apply to weapons. If an ability isn't available or can't be used, the weapon will perform an auto attack. The number of ticks between each auto attack varies depending on the weapon. While precise tick management is crucial in high-end combat, it's less of a concern in most situations. When it comes to combat in RuneScape 3, adrenaline is where the real meat and potatoes lie. Adrenaline acts as a gauge that determines which abilities you can use, and abilities can either generate or consume adrenaline. Basic abilities can be used at any time and generate 8% base adrenaline. Threshold abilities require a minimum of 50% adrenaline and consume 15% base adrenaline. Ultimate abilities require and consume 100% base adrenaline, and special attacks vary in their base adrenaline cost depending on the weapon used. Remember when I mentioned auto attacks? They also generate adrenaline. albeit a smaller amount that adds up over time. One final note about adrenaline. Notice how I use the term base adrenaline. Numerous items in the game can modify the amount of adrenaline you gain or lose, which is a topic deserving of its own dedicated video. Still with me? The final topic I want to cover in this video is the distinction between full manual, revolution, and legacy combat. It all boils down to how you prefer your abilities activated, or whether you prefer none at all. First up is full manual. This combat mode was introduced with the Evolution of Combat update. With full manual, you're responsible for activating all your abilities. Sounds fun, right? It offers the most control over when abilities are activated for maximizing damage potential. However, the trade-off is the high level of attention required. To master full manual, you need a solid understanding of the tick system and how each ability functions. On the opposite end is legacy. Introduced primarily for nostalgia, this combat mode strips away all abilities, returning combat to its pre-EOC state. However, there's a catch. Legacy combat is quite challenging to master. Without keybinds, you must manually switch between weapons and armor from your inventory, manage prayers from the prayer book, and rely on special attack weapons. Another downside is that many newer bosses in the game feature mechanics that are challenging to handle with Legacy. Not impossible, but certainly difficult. Lastly, there's Revolution. This combat mode automates the activation of abilities for you. It was introduced to provide a more relaxed experience for players, making combat easier while still maintaining respectable damage output. Revolution works by prioritizing the first ability available from left to right on your action bar. It's an excellent choice for newer players or those looking to AFK combat. However, Revolution does come with drawbacks. You have less control over which abilities are used, which can potentially limit your damage output in certain situations. Despite this drawback, Revolution remains a viable and popular option. Another option worth considering is a hybrid approach that combines the ability optimization of full manual with the reduced input of Revolution. While not without its flaws, it offers a balanced compromise between control and convenience. While this video covered the core fundamentals of combat in RuneScape, there's always more to explore. What aspects did I miss? Share your thoughts and future video ideas in the comments below. For more in-depth guides, check out the series playlist linked on screen and in the description. Stay tuned for the next video, and as always, stay caffeinated.